6 years ago, Jacques Villeneuve burst onto the Formula One scene. In just 2 seasons, he won 11 races and the 1997 World Championship. But Villeneuve has not won since. Today, he races on his home track, a circuit named for his late father. His team, British American Racing, is the only one in 2002 not to have scored a point. Canadian cameras will follow Villeneuve's every move, and should he score a point, it'll seem like a victory. The Canadian Grand Prix is next. Welcome to Formula One on Speed Channel. This is the Acura pre-race show for the Canadian Grand Prix, round 8 of the 2002 World Championship. I'm David Hobbs, as Steve Matchett. Rick de Brule could not join us today. Even though it was 3 weeks ago, it is worth going back to the Monaco Grand Prix for a further explanation of what was happening when David Coulthard's McLaren started smoking. Here's Peter Windsor.
Yes, flashback to the Monaco Grand Prix where David Coulthard's leading for McLaren Mercedes, but 3 or 4 cars are stacked up behind him, and then conveniently smoke starts pouring out of his exhaust pipes. So I spoke to David first to get him to recap exactly what was going on inside the cockpit of the McLaren.
Well, the first thing was I started to feel a loss of power, and now I understand why, because it was pumping the oil from the catch tank, from the extra reservoir tank into the airbox. So naturally it's sucking down too much oil with the fuel mix, and it was making it run rich, and that's where the power loss was. And then after that I got on the radio and said, look, I'm losing power, and then the team came on and said it's okay, and then I saw the smoke.
For his part, Juan Pablo Montoya, of course, thought that the engine was about to blow and wanted to give David room.
It was quite weird to see a car smoking, and not, you see a car smoke for half of the race and mine blows and he doesn't. So it's a bit frustrating, I gotta say, but it's part of, I think it's a good thing, because you don't get the oil just spread down in the ground. It's just oil is burned through the engine, so you see the smoke, but I think it was a good thing.
I asked BMW's Mario Tyson whether or not they in the Williams BMW pit had any idea what was going on with the McLaren Mercedes.
It was not clear to me, because it could have been an engine failure as well. But I talked to Mario Ilien after the race, and then it was immediately clear. So they overfilled the engine with oil, and he just had to burn it, and it was okay again.
So, Steve, there are a lot of possibilities here. Just by playing with a laptop a bit and simulating perhaps a stuck valve, you can get rid of the guys behind you by blowing out a bit of smoke. I'm sure we can extrapolate this a lot further. I'm sure Ferrari would have something to say about it. They could put it to good use, perhaps. And James Bond might even have thought about it.
Well, it's certainly true the technology does exist on these cars nowadays that you could, by virtue of just controlling the computer, drip a little bit of oil into the exhaust system there and get that to work. Yeah, I don't think McLaren were doing that for a second, though, in this instance. What they were doing, this is very interesting, from the pit wall, they were opening and closing via two-way telemetry system in the radio, the valve that was controlling that auxiliary oil tank. And eventually they managed to get that little bit of contamination to move away from that valve and seal it. So I think that was the first time in history, really, you could say a race has been won by the engineers directly intervening with the car from the pit wall, David.
Well, it certainly is absolutely amazing what wonders modern technology will do. We talked about the focus that will be on Jacques Villeneuve today and the need for his team to score points. He will have a redesigned BAR chassis, and it's the first revision to the car by former Williams designer Jeff Willis, seen here with his former boss Patrick Head. Take a look at this, Steve. The new BAR is remarkably similar to the Williams.
It's unbelievably close, isn't it? And you have to remember, Jeff Willis, of course, went from BMW Williams to the BAR team. He went from chief designer there to technical director at BAR. But this is normal. An aerodynamicist will look at a principle and basically think that this is the way to work, and is bound to copy it over. If he changes it, you've got to think, well, he thought it was wrong in the first place. So he'll follow that throughout his career and develop.
Yeah, just like Barnard did when he went from Ferrari to Benetton.
Exactly the same. The 91 Benetton, you would say, would have been the 91 Ferrari if he'd have stopped on board.
There goes Michael Schumacher. We'll return with more in just a moment. And when we do come back, we'll take a lap around the circuit Gilles Villeneuve on this wonderful Ile Notre Dame.
Speed Channel's coverage of Formula One is brought to you by the Acura MDX, taking the SUV to a place it's never been before.
Welcome back to the Canadian Grand Prix. This will be Jacques Villeneuve's 7th Formula One race on this circuit. Unfortunately for him, he has not had much luck here. However, he loves coming home to Racing Canada, mainly because of the great fan support.
Racing in Canada is great. We're not in these parts of the world for many times for racing, and so coming here is special, and you can see it with the way the fans react. They're very warm. The welcome for everybody, all the teams, the mechanics, every driver is very warm. The fans cheers very loudly on the side of the track, so it's great. It's a very enjoyable and laid back and positive atmosphere.
All right, well, let's have a look at the Canadian Grand Prix track that we're going to be on, racing on today, the Ile de Notre Dame in the St. Lawrence Seaway. The slightly curious shape is because it does follow the shape of that island. Enormously long straight, very, very demanding on brakes. A couple of revisions to the track this year. The Casino hairpin has been reduced in length by 60 metres and made braking very, very difficult. They've relayed the asphalt round there as well. Look out for that tight chicane, corners 12 and 13. That catches a lot of people out as they come onto the main pit straight. This circuit is all about mechanical grip and traction coming out of the hairpins, and you need very, very good brakes. For me, that's going to be the story of the race.
Well, let's take an onboard lap now, starting with Jacques Villeneuve as you go across the start-finish line at about 190 miles an hour into this first left-right complex. Very tight. Now, this right-hander here starts off slow, then as it unwinds here. So these guys are on full power, flat out, but they're still turning right all the time. Then, to make matters worse, they're braking as they're turning right into that sharp right and left complex. As you can see, not much room on either side of this track for error. I mean, there's no putting the wheel right over the edge here, otherwise the edge is the barrier. More tight corners, needing that traction that Steve was just telling us about. Up to full speed along here, about 170 miles an hour again. Again, the wall's right up there, under the bridge, a bit confusing. Tight right-hander, very heavy braking there. So again, that's the wall that's caught with Barrichello and Trulli so far in practice and qualifying this weekend already. Down to the hairpin, a little bit shorter. There's the new asphalt. A real classic hairpin. It's 180 degrees, and you've got to get this exit right because it leads onto the fastest part of the circuit. So you really want to come out of that hairpin well. And of course, that's where a lot of schmozzle's going to go on braking into there. 207 miles an hour. Michael Schumacher was pulling here yesterday afternoon in qualifying. Hard on the brakes for this chicane too, bouncing over the curbs. You've got to get the car set up just right for curb warfare and, of course, for straight line speed. And, of course, you want some downforce to make those brakes really effective when you brake from these very high speeds. You want as much downforce as you can get. But to get those high speeds, you don't need the downforce. Here's Villeneuve on an exploratory lap as he looks like he's going to take his position on the grid. That's late for him. He usually gets out there onto the grid early on, but he's obviously been showing himself and his car off to the crowd here on the circuit named after his dad.
Yeah, Michael was out earlier than usual. He was out with about 6 minutes to go before the pit lane closed. But yeah, this is late for Villeneuve, so I'm not quite sure why that would be. We'll follow up with that when we get a little bit more information to see what they've been doing down in the BAR pits. But you're right, David. It's, braking is very, very demanding on the cars around here. More so than ever. You'll probably see that a lot of the cars have got bigger brake ducts on. Look at the size of the brake ducts, for example, on the BAR. Much bigger than they were running in qualifying. There's a great shot. You see them down in the carbon suspension at the front there because, I would be surprised if wouldn't be surprised rather, if 2, 3, maybe even more cars go out with a brake failure here.
Because Heinz-Harald Frentzen had that huge brake failure here on the Jordan a few years back in 1999 when he clobbered the fence there. So as old Jacques Villeneuve sits under his umbrella, the temperature's going up in Canada, the heart rates are going up as well as the cars sit on the grid, so don't go away because we'll be back with the race in a minute. Welcome back to Speed Channel's coverage of the Canadian Grand Prix. I'm David Hobbs along with Steve Matchett. Now let's see how they'll line up today on our BMW starting grid. On the pole for the 6th time in his career, Juan Pablo Montoya, and alongside him Michael Schumacher. Their 5th time on the front row together, and Michael's 7th here in Montreal.
Rubens Barrichello heads up the 2nd row of the grid in 3rd position. Rubens on 3rd. Ralf Schumacher in the Williams FW24 takes the 4th spot.
Row 3, Kimi Räikkönen again out-qualifying his teammate David Coulthard, and alongside him Giancarlo Fisichella with his best grid position since Japan last year.
And the winner of the Monaco Grand Prix, David Coulthard, no higher up the grid than 8th in this race, outpaced by Heidfeld Sauber.
In 9th spot, a relatively happy hometown driver, Jacques Villeneuve in the BAR Honda, and in 10th, Jarno Trulli, no doubt a bit disappointed after the last couple of races.
And Olivier Panis snatches 11th spot from Felipe Massa. Massa himself 2 rows behind his teammate Heidfeld.
On row 7, Jenson Button in the second of the Renaults, a bit off his Monaco pace, and alongside him, Eddie Irvine in the first of the Jaguars.
And Pedro de la Rosa has got a new Cosworth engine in qualifying, gets him up to 16th spot, 8th row of the grid. And Sato in the Honda-powered Jordan takes 15th spot just ahead of de la Rosa.
In 17th spot, Enrique Bernaldi in his Arrows Cosworth, and Mika Salo in the first of the Toyotas is 18th.
And Frentzen leads McNish on the penultimate row, but the Scot unhappy with the handling of the Toyota, although he has got great horsepower in that Toyota.
On the back row, we had the two Minardis, Mark Webber in 21st spot and Alex Yoong in 22nd, but Mark Webber's time was quicker than last year's pole.
That's unbelievable. Here's a little shot that came in on the world feed earlier on. Look at the Williams guys now changing the roll bar there on Ralf Schumacher's car now. Are they anticipating rain, we wonder, later on in the race? Maybe they're just about to change their mind.
Well, time now for one last break before the start of the Canadian Grand Prix. When we come back, the cars will be set to roll off, and we promise that you will see the entire formation. Welcome back to Speed Channel's coverage of the Canadian Grand Prix. Everybody assembled on the grid. Tensions are high. Tyre warmers coming off. Crews taking the tyre warmers and accessories and spares and tools to the pits. Steve, this is the moment of absolute high tension.
It is. Now, there's nothing now that the mechanics can do. This is really all down to you and your guys, David, the drivers now. It's a great sense of loss in a way. Once you walk away from that car, you know for the next hour and a half, really, apart from what you can do in the pit stops, is not very much. Your work is done for the weekend.
It is done for the weekend. Let's have a look at the weather. 75 degrees, a lot hotter than yesterday. The track temperature is up to 90 degrees. Humidity 64, about the same. A little bit more wind than yesterday, 18 miles an hour. But it is overcast, so the temperature probably won't be going up a lot more than it is at the moment. Cars getting ready now to roll off on their last and final formation lap.
And all the mechanics are clear, so there's no possibility of anybody being penalised. They have to remember they have to be away 15 seconds before they roll the cars off there. So all well and good so far.
Traction controls turned off when they do their practice start here to lay some rubber down on their grid position. In theory, you're not supposed to do that, but they all do it. There you see the new pit exit complex. The track's been widened just a little bit. Can't go over that white line as you come out of the pits until you've crossed that white line that goes right across the track. There you see a great view of Montreal in the background across the St. Lawrence River. Now let's take a look at the US Army storylines for today's race. 4 into 1. Well, we've had Barrichello and Ralf Schumacher run into each other a couple of times already this year. Juan Pablo Montoya and Michael Schumacher have had a couple of run-ins, and all 4 of them are at the front, and it's a very tight first corner. By the time they get there, they're already doing about 150 miles an hour. Are they all going to get through safely?
Well, braking brakes. I've been predicting it for a few races that somebody's going to suffer with brake failure. This is the circuit if anybody's going to struggle with it. Watch during the pit stops. If anybody's worrying about brake wear, they will send a mechanic in with a vernier caliper gauge to check the thickness of the discs in the pit stop. They may have to adjust the brake bias further to the back to try and get these cars to finish the race distance. Especially the Williams. Williams have been chucking out a huge amount of black carbon dust all weekend. Look out for those guys towards the end, the closing stages of the race.
They're going through the casino hairpin. Huge crowd on hand here at Montreal. Very convenient to get to this circuit. You come in on the subway, on the train, and just walk across. On board now is Jacques Villeneuve. We'll no doubt be seeing quite a bit of that this afternoon. Now, pole position here, in theory, is sort of on the wrong side of the track. And in warm-up this morning, Montoya was doing a lot of cleaning up of his side of the track. He was driving down his side of the track to try and blow the dust off. And it's going to be interesting to see how he lines that car up on the grid. Is he going to be at a slight angle? And no doubt, being in front of Michael Schumacher, he's going to dish out a bit of Michael Schumacher's own treatment to him by chopping across him as they go down into turn 1. But it's going to be difficult for him. And if he's got the dirty side of the track, that might sort of delay his start just a little bit. Here we are coming under that bridge there. 207 miles an hour in qualifying. Michael Schumacher, as they put the brakes on for this sharp right-left complex. If you go straight through there, there's a penalty, of course, if you pick up a position. There you see the Eddie Irvine's Jag, Pedro de la Rosa's Jag, Enrique Benoldi, Frentzen behind him. Unusually, Frentzen was looking very good on Friday at one stage. He was in the top 6, but somehow qualifying didn't work out how he hoped it would. There you see the grid, how it is that is definitely the dirty side of the track that Montoya is on, because the cars particularly run down the left side of the track that's left on the picture.
And look at the positioning of Montoya's car there. Is already pointing over towards the Ferrari, and Michael Schumacher glancing over to the Williams has already picked that up. Now remember, Patrick Head was very critical after the Monaco race, saying that Montoya was too quick turning the wheel as they come off the line, and that, he says, was probably a contributing factor with the lack of traction coming off the line as far as the Williams is concerned.
Montoya replied another word that we won't use right here. The red lights are on. Let's way out. Yep. Oh, and Barrichello makes a great start. A very good start. Barrichello goes into second.
Well, bad start by Schumacher, and he is struggling again now.
McLaren's running.
Raikkonen up into 4th spot.
Ralf Schumacher lost a spot to Raikkonen.
There's the revised hairpin there, the casino hairpin. You can see where it's been remodeled and reduced by about 60 meters.
Barrichello looking very racy here. There goes Barrichello. He's got him. He's got the inside line.
He has.
So Barrichello here looking like he's running very, very light. So is Barrichello on a 2-stop strategy.
Della Rosa, we're hearing, has gone into the wall. We're going to pick that shot up a little later, I'm sure, but there is speculation down in the pit lane that Rubens was on a 2-stop strategy, therefore running much lighter, and boy, he took the jump there.
Looks like Pedro de la Rosa's day is done.
Yeah, right front damage there to the suspension. You see the tyre had peeled off the rim. The bead had come off the rim of the right front.
So Rubens Barrichello on a charge, and Michael Schumacher not very far behind Montoya either. Montoya and the Williams team, generally speaking, run a lot of fuel. They do their 1-stop strategy. They tend to start a bit heavy, which I think is really what foiled him in Monte Carlo, not him turning to try and keep Coulthard off, because when you see a replay of that, it was a bit of a wimpy turn if he was trying to keep him at bay. I think the fact is the car was a lot heavier.
I agree. Let's have a replay of the start. See how Montoya shot straight over.
Well, he said you learn from the master, so he did it to him, and of course it delayed Schumacher just somewhat, and Rubens Barrichello slipped down the inside, but I think Rubens Barrichello is probably running a bit lighter. But look at the way they all thread through the diabolical first complex pretty well there.
And as you said before, David, it's all very well chopping in front of the lead car like that, but it does use more of the track, and I think that gave Barrichello a bit of a chance to run up on the inside there, Montoya.
Yeah, and Barrichello was running down the dirty side of the track. We've been making a lot of issue about the dirty side of the track, but in fact Barrichello used it and did well. Ralf Schumacher there now giving Raikkonen a big run for his money, or a tough run for his money.
This is going to be a replay.
This is this great, look at the way Rubens Barrichello right over on the dirty side of the track, kicking up the dust. Montoya nearly has him in the pit wall, but old Barrichello's not given up.
No, and he did well to hang it all together there, going through that complex at the end of the straight.
Yeah, boy, that was a bit of a tough go by old Montoya. They didn't give him any room at all.
No, it's not as hot as we've seen, is it either, David? So we're going to have to assume we're on board with Montoya.
None at all. So Rubens Barrichello stretching his lead just a little bit.
Well, Montoya's trying to keep up with him, but I wonder whether or not those Michelins have gone into that sort of that 5 or 6 lap degradation period where they need to get that core temperature sorted out.
I think they've sort of solved that problem, but even so, it could be right. They could be having just a slight sinking spell.
Well, you know, I think there's changing the construction and the compound of the tyres now from race to race. So even if they've come up with a cure for one circuit, let's say the tyre was handling much better in Monaco, it could well be that the tyres they brought here are a completely different spec again. And there again, they may have got this problem that Michelin have had with. It's all very well bringing the tyres up to temperature in tyre blankets, but you really need to move. You need to manipulate the carcass of the tyre to get it to yield up a little bit. I think that's what they're struggling with.
It could be, although Michael Schumacher is slipping back just a little bit, but not into the clutches of Raikkonen. In fact, they're pretty spread out for early on in the race. Mika Salo is having a good run in the Toyota. He's gone from 18th to 13th. He's now right behind Olivier Panis in the BAR Honda. And Villeneuve has slipped back. He qualified 9th, and he's back now in 11th spot. So things not going too well for our hometown hero. Eddie Irvine down there in 17th, McNish. Frentzen, I thought he'd be making up a bit of ground. And of course, Pedro de la Rosa probably out of the race. There you see Raikkonen, Ralf Schumacher, last year's winner here. Rubens Barrichello was running well last year, but got taken out when one Montoya slapped the wall there and took hold of poor old Rubens out with him. There you see Villeneuve, Salo, Panis and Sato having a big go there in the 2 Honda engine cars, the BAR and the Jordan. And here's and right behind them is one of the Saubers, Felipe Massa. His first trip here, of course. No, good race going on back in the middle of the field here, or towards the back of the field, but nevertheless a tough race.
We're
Jack
watching
Villeneuve is in 11th there, so if he dropped back a couple of spots from his qualifying.
Yeah, they've made a lot of changes to that BAR now, and the thing really should be producing better results than it is, but they really need more power out of the Honda engine. That's what they want. You can have a very, very slippery shaped car and you can get the mechanical grip, but you still need the grunt to push the thing along.
The guys that have benefited of that are Jarno Trulli, is now running 9th, and Jenson Button, who's running 10th. Button, of course, qualified down in 13th spot, and Trulli in 10th. So as we watch Michael Schumacher, Juan Pablo Montoya, and the rest of the gang in the Canadian Grand Prix, we'll take a quick break now. We'll be right back with more action from Canada in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to Speed Channel's coverage of the Canadian Grand Prix, where Mika Salo has just overtaken Villeneuve and pushed him down to 11th spot. So Mika Salo on a real strong run in the Toyota, and the Honda engine BAR cars not looking so good this afternoon as they did yesterday. There you see both of them. There's Panis. Right behind him is Felipe Massa, who looks pretty threatening. There you see Sato and Enrique Benoldi behind Massa.
Well, both the Toyota drivers were complaining that the car was really too stiff yesterday in qualifying. And as we were saying at the top of the show, you need good mechanical grip to get the traction out. So what they've done is soften the car off, lift the ride height up a little bit, put a little set of softer springs on there to try and get a little bit more roll in the car. And I think that's what got the jump there on the BAR.
They've obviously changed something, and very effectively too. We saw a big cloud of dust, brake dust, coming out of Kimi Raikkonen's brakes as he came into that chicane there. Kimi Raikkonen fighting now to hold Ralf Schumacher at bay. The BMW reputedly got a lot more horsepower than the BMW engine this year, but after Coulthard's Monaco win, it's sort of a bit hard to see that, although they were significantly slower than the front row yesterday in qualifying. But Raikkonen, he certainly is the man of the moment, or young guy, really, really quick. Here we see Mika Salo going down the inside of Jacques Villeneuve into the Casino hairpin, has a nice line on the inside, a little bit of smoke coming off the tyres there, so he's absolutely using the brakes to the limit.
Absolutely, and that was the thing, it was out braking going in, but it's getting that traction as you pull back out. That was what gave him the advantage there. BAR car really didn't do it, did it?
And there's Sato going down the inside of Olivier Panis. So we've got the battle of the giants here, the Japanese giants that is, with Honda and Toyota. And I must say at the moment that Toyota, nope, Panis goes back past Sato again. So now then, Rubens Barrichello, if he's on a two-stop strategy, obviously he's got to pull out a lot of space on Montoya to make it work. If he's gone on two-stop strategy, look for him to stop on about lap 24 and 48. So he's in 24 laps. He's got to put out a lot of time to make it worthwhile.
Well, he's almost running in clear track there. I mean, the caption's showing less than 4 seconds, but I don't see Montoya in the shot.
That's in 8 laps, so he's only going to be able to pull out at that rate. He's only going to be able to pull out about 12 or 13 seconds. There you see that terrific battle from 11th back on, but here's
leading that pass. That's a great shot.
And Enrique Bernoldi's tagging onto the back of that group too in his arrows, and Frentzen uncharacteristically is a long way behind now. I'm not quite sure what's gone wrong with Frentzen this weekend. He had a good run on Friday, but things seem to have gone downhill somewhat since then. Panis, Bernoldi, there's Sato. Barrichello straight line the chicane. Now I wonder if they're going to sanction. But there's a great aerial shot. And there you see on the right of the picture where the old hairpin used to be, just a little bit further up the road. I assume the reason they've shortened it down there is to make a bigger gap between them and the grandstands, which they could not move back any further because there are buildings behind those grandstands. And I guess they wanted a bit more runoff area for keep the crowd a bit clearer.
Yeah, the whole layout of this circuit is really defined by the aisle they're on. Now we're hearing that Jacques Villeneuve has stopped on circuit, so we'll see if we can pick up a shot of that together.
Enrique Bernoldi going to go around the outside Panis. There is Jacques Villeneuve. What a disappointment to him and his millions of fans, or hundreds of thousands of fans that are here. And Bernoldi did pull off that pass and got around Olivier Panis. Not a good day for BAR Honda. Boy, oh boy, this is the new BAR. We saw it at the beginning of the show there. Jeff Willis has come on board. The whole thing's been redesigned, revamped. Supposed to be a much better car. The engine has got an upgrade for this weekend, and one's out so far, and Panis is slipping back through the field. We'll be back with more from Canada. Stay right here with us.
Speed Channel's coverage of Formula One is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, located on the web at mbusa.com.
Watching Rubens Barrichello on lap 12 of the Canadian Grand Prix with a beautiful shot of Montreal in the background there and the river, but he's not interested in views at the moment. The only view he's looking in is his rear view mirror to make sure he can't see Juan Pablo Montoya behind him. And two cars back, you got Raikkonen and Ralf Schumacher. Ralf Schumacher must be getting just a little bit frustrated now because they're back nearly 15 seconds, or they're back nearly 16 seconds behind the leader, Rubens Barrichello. Not what Ralf Schumacher had in mind at all. Of course, last year's winner here.
Yeah, and David, where do you think the big overtaking opportunity is on this circuit now over the weekend? Is it still down into that chicane, the hairpin, the casino hairpin? Is that where it's all happening? Do you think outbraking going into that?
I think that is the obvious place to overtake here, and of course into that turn 1 complex. But you know, you get strung out a bit as you go through that last chicane, more than you do going through the hairpin. So it's not easy there, but that is a potential overtaking spot into turn 1. But the casino hairpin is the absolute obvious spot. Look at that cloud of dust. You're braking. There's the casino hairpin.
Yeah, and that's where it's all going to happen as far as braking is concerned, because it's such a high-speed corner. You're going like 190 mile an hour in 5th, 6th, braking down to that corner, and you're exiting at 40 miles an hour. Yeah. So you're scrubbing off a huge amount of speed.
It happens so many times around this track that you watch, here it comes again, though you lose so much speed. So Ralph must be getting just a little bit. Michael Schumacher there on his losing a lot of ground to Montoya. If they're both on a one-stop strategy, Michael Schumacher in those 12 and those 13 laps has lost over 4 seconds to Montoya. Now in the last 5 of these, in 5 of the last 6 Canadian Grand Prix, they've deployed the pace car, the safety car. And we hear that they're having trouble with Villeneuve's car getting it off the track. So are they, in fact, going to deploy it for the 6th time in 7 races?
Well, that was one of the Minardis running wide there. That's 12-13. Alex Young and De La Rosa, the 2 cars on track with it. We're hearing now that the safety car, David, you wouldn't believe it, the safety car has just been deployed.
Wow. That is extraordinary.
Unbelievable.
And it's going to be that, of course, just completely neutralizes. It completely neutralizes Barrichello's strategy.
Yeah, we're hearing that Montoya has gone into the pits.
So he's going to lose very
There he
little
is.
track time. Very, very good. That's interesting. Rubens Barrichello stayed out. And if he's on a two-stop strategy, you'd have thought they'd have taken the opportunity to come in there, but Montoya did. Montoya going to be able to go from here to the end of the race.
Well, do you think it was just too late? And Montoya rejoins in 5th position behind Coulthard. Do you think it was just too late to get Barrichello into the pits, David, with the deployment of the safety car?
Exactly. It depends exactly where you're on the track,
Yeah,
when you're told, when you can do it. So it could be as we watch Salo leave the pits there in the Jordan Honda, having a better run than I think he thought he was going to get actually so far, running in 12th spot, having qualified in 15th. So that could have really stymied old Barrichello's whole strategy. And of course, him and Michael had such a huge lead over everybody else. Him, Montoya, Michael, and Barrichello had such a huge lead that Montoya, after that stop, still comes out in front of Davy Coulthard, who was lying 6th. So that just shows how far in front they were. Well, the lights are off on the pace car. Enrique Benoldi is in the pits, got trouble with his right rear suspension, but he's going off again. The pace car lights are out, and the cars all lining up in single file behind them. Don't forget, now, when they go through that last chicane onto the pit straight, there's no overtaking until they cross the start-finish line, which is quite a long way down that front straightaway. So if people come off there really good and they're right behind someone, it's going to be awfully tempting to whistle by them.
And look how Michael, he seems to be dropping back a little bit to try and help his teammates along. Now he's speeding up again, but he seems to be creating a gap in between Barrichello and the rest of the field. And these guys have got to be careful now. After running behind the pace car, they need to get the temperature sorted out in tyres and brakes. Watch for people locking up. This is nothing to do with brake wear. This is just the fact that the brakes will have cooled down. Watch them for locking up going down to the first corner.
Of course, these guys aren't used to driving on such cold tyres though, either. Used to coming to pit stops and having hot rubber put on with those tyre warmers. They've just done about 5 laps there behind the pace car. They've got to be a bit careful on this opening lap.
Absolutely, they have.
Raikkonen's still there, holding up both the Williams cars now. Ooh, there's Montoya locking him up. He's been doing quite a bit of locking up this afternoon, but he was driving very fast and very effectively. Juan Pablo of our leading quartet is the only one to have stopped. Only time will tell whether that was a really smart move. Knowing Juan Pablo and Williams, it probably was.
Probably is, yeah. Yeah, Benoldi having all sorts of problems. Couldn't see what it was. The technicians and the engineers are pointing inside the right rear rim as if something was catching on the rim and probably scoring it. And remember the clearance. Here comes here again, Benoldi, and again. I think this will be Benoldi's. This will be straight into the garage.
Oh, you see that right rear's all leaning out at the top.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got to be very careful. The clearance between the caliper profile and the inside profile of the wheel rim, it only allows for like 2.5 to 3 mil of clearance. So you have to be careful even when they're doing the balance weights, when they're weighing these tyres up on the balancing machines, because there ain't no room for error inside there.
Took my win away at Le Mans in 19. Whoa! Ralph Montoya and Raikkonen, all 3 wide going down to turn 1. Whoa! And Montoya takes the...
Boy. Where did he pull that from?
God. I tell you, old Montoya's coming. Michael Schumacher looking over his shoulder. I tell you.
Yeah. Now, did he take advantage of the fact the tyres were still coming back onto song and hadn't quite got to full spec, do you think?
Look at him there, side by side. And Montoya sneaks by into that turn 1. Wow, what a pass. That was lucky there that Ralph just nearly clipped the back of Raikkonen's car.
I wonder, I'm surprised that the tyres aren't come up to temperature by that time. I wonder whether or not Ralph's let him go. Ralph's straight line to the chicane back there. Ralph's got problems. Ralph has got problems on that Williams.
Montoya, Raikkonen, Ralph, Coulthard. see that Ralph, straight line the chicane, knew that he'd done it wrong and lifted off. And old Montoya absolutely pounced on him and snatched it. Here's Ralph going around the outside, trying to go around the outside of Raikkonen, but Raikkonen's not having any of it. This is a strong battle of fourth. Raikkonen doing a sterling job there, holding the more powerful Williams car off. Boy, it's going to be interesting to see how this thing pans out.
Yes, it is.
With that stop that Montoya had there was 54 laps left to go when he stopped. He ain't going to be able to go through to the end, is he?
No.
But he will be able to go a good bit longer than the others, so that last stop will be shorter, and of course he'll have a lot less fuel in for those last few laps. So, boy, look at that brake dust again off Raikkonen's car. Huge crowd on hand to see Jacques Villeneuve and the Grand Prix circus. Unfortunately, Jacques Villeneuve is already out of the race. And that's the position where I'd have thought that the Williams would have had more effect.
This is a battle for fourth. Ralf Schumacher and Raikkonen, McLaren and Williams. Well, there can be no doubt that BMW have certainly got a lot more power than the McLaren outfit with the Mercedes at the moment, but it ain't just all about power, clearly.
Rubens Barrichello pulling away again from Michael Schumacher, so the Ferrari plan they've obviously got some plan up their sleeve somewhere. Maybe Michael started particularly heavy in this race.
Well, I'd have to say, I mean, it looked to me like a very poor start off the line. Now, whether or not that was in a way to give Barrichello the opportunity to get away, or do you think he's just running a huge amount of fuel?
I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
50 laps of this 69-lap race left.
This is it. And I tell you what, the Williams doesn't seem to be chucking out anywhere near as much brake dust and smoke than the McLaren is.
No.
I mean, here I'm saying, you know, the Williams, look out for the Williams brakes, and in fact, it seems at the moment like McLaren are struggling far more.
Let's have a look here. And there you see it again.
You know, they've got such massive loads coming down into these corners, but the big problem is that when you start breaking down into the corner, particularly the Casino hairpin, which is the extreme example, 190 mile an hour on the entry and 40 mile an hour on the exit, the download starts to lift off. They're probably running like 2,000 kilos of downforce coming down into that corner. Then it starts to drop off, and as the downforce lifts off down to a negligible figure, of course, you have to be very, very careful not to lock the brakes up, because all of a sudden you haven't got the aerodynamic load pushing the car into the corner.
Absolutely. That downforce is such a big help on not just cornering, but particularly on braking, and people don't really realize that, especially when you're braking for these very high speeds, what staggering downforce you've got and how late, of course, you can brake as a result of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And
of course when you brake late like that, it really takes hell out of the brakes, of course.
Yeah.
So as you watch this intense battle for fourth spot between Kimi Raikkonen and Ralf Schumacher, we'll take a quick break and we'll be back with more from Canada in just a minute, so stay right here with us. Welcome back to the Canadian Grand Prix as we watch Juan Pablo Montoya running in third spot. He's currently about 6 seconds behind Michael Schumacher in second. There you see some of the times. Barrichello leading the race, obviously running consistently very, very quick laps, extremely quick. But last up there, 16.6 as opposed to an 18.6 for Montoya. But Montoya, of course, remember, has just put new tyres and filled his car up again with fuel. So he's got another, 12 laps in him over anybody else at the moment.
Now, let's have a look at a replay that we got earlier on when we were talking about the brake wear. Let's have a look at the Williams braking down into this corner. Watch the rear wheels glow there. Now that's why they're not suffering so much as the McLaren, David, I think, because they've got the bias more to the back than the McLaren has. Normally you get all the suspension load, the car load shift to the front, and it's the front brakes that use most of the work. They're the ones you expect to glow the most. You wouldn't normally expect to see that amount of glow coming from the rear brakes, I don't believe. So probably in an attempt to try and preserve the brakes as much as possible, they're playing around with the bias more to the back.
They could be running with a bit more bias on the back as the race starts off here, and then as the race progresses and they feel their brake wear is okay, they could probably put a little bit more on the front there to maximize their braking efficiency later on in the race. Good battle there from 9th back. Trulli, Salo, Button, Massa, Panis and Irvine all having a good dish out there. There you see Rubens Barrichello got a huge lead at the moment. Well, 4 seconds.
Well, yeah, that's not bad.
No, it's not.
But this guy Barrichello and the Ferrari team really seem to have gelled, don't they, this year? I think Barrichello has just been a completely transformed man. All right, we know he's having to comply to team orders. He's just signed a contract for 2 more years, but I would have a lot of faith and confidence in this guy.
There are certain European pundits who are thinking that convinced that Michael Schumacher is going to retire at the end of this year, and that that's one of the reasons why Barrichello is prepared to let Michael Schumacher win races in the championship this year, because he knows that next year he's going to be top dog at Ferrari. We'll see as the year unfolds, but that's one of the big theories being bounced around Europe at the moment.
I must admit, I find that difficult to believe that Michael would retire at this stage when so many championships and so many records are falling into his hands.
Yeah.
You know, and he's worked very hard all his years to get those records into his hands. But now to say, I'm going to retire with 5 if he manages to pull off this year's championship and not go for that 6, I don't see the man motivated that way.
I find it difficult to believe. And then on the other hand, somebody else is saying, how could you be so motivated as Michael Schumacher is? The amount of training he does, physical training, and the amount of practice and driving that he does, when he's already got literally hundreds of millions locked away.
Yeah,
that's a tough motive. I mean, look at the gap from Michael Schumacher running second back to Montoya in third. There you see the lap time comparisons again between Montoya.
Oh, now we're beginning to see a little bit of dust coming out of the front of the Williams. You see that?
Of course, he could have a different setup to Ralph.
Yeah.
They can change that, of course, from on board there. You see the battle for 4th right behind him. Raikkonen still holding off Ralf Schumacher. Yeah. Good battle here. Jarno, Trulli, Salo. Massa's got right into the action here. Got around Salo. Did Salo go into the pits?
Salo into the pits. Salo into the pits.
Trullo, Sali and Panis there. Salo is intense, so he's first of the regular runners to stop under green, as it were.
They're only changing the rear tyres on the Toyota. They have not changed the front tyres on Salo's car.
Mika Salo had a great run, starting 18th up to 10th, so he's done some passing on the circuit, which is so difficult to pass on, but obviously proves it's not impossible. His teammate Alan McNish is still down in 15th, not having such a good run as Salo. So we hear that Ferraris are pulling tyres out onto the pit lane, but then you say that this could be a ploy.
Well, it's certainly not unheard of. But in this instance, Barrichello does take to the pit. So obviously Rubens Barrichello running a 2-stop strategy. There's no doubt about that now. But yeah, the reason that Toyota would have been so reluctant to have changed those front tyres is to try and help with the understeer. We'll get into that a little bit after this pit stop.
Look at that stuff coming out of the intake there. Dust, my goodness me.
Yeah, and that will be a great concern to the team. Remember, they will have all that two-way telemetry pouring that data off the car. We've seen it been blown around at the start of the race, all that stuff coming off the trees, the very small leaves on the pole and whatever.
It's that little leaf, not little leaf, like a cotton ball that floats around off those trees, and you can see it really in the air, and it's just clogged his radiators up. Well, obviously it must have been clogging everybody else's stuff as well. So there you see Rubens Barrichello has come out in 6th position.
Yeah, and they need to be very wary of that. Inside the radiator ducts, they have a series of meshing that's woven in a way to try and maximize the space in there, so that if it does clog up, it allows the car to run for longer. But they will be looking very carefully at the oil temperatures and the water coolant temperatures from the information flowing from the car. They would have been looking at that, so they needed to get it out. Now you can see the drivers clearly indicated, let me go, but he ain't going to go far with his radiators clogged up.
No.
So it's a twin-edged sword. What do you do? Let him go early or try and get a few more laps out of the thing?
There you see Jarno Trulli. Oh, did he clip the wall? He did that yesterday, of course. It was mighty close because he did that yesterday and broke his rear suspension. Here you see the battle for 3rd. Raikkonen and Ralf Schumacher have now moved up to 3rd spot with Barrichello's stop. Raikkonen locking up the fronts there. Montoya just going out the picture to the bottom there. So he's not very far in front of these two coves. Raikkonen hanging in there very, very well.
Michael is 1.2 seconds quicker at the moment than Montoya.
Great battle here for 3rd spot.
Going back to that situation with Toyota of not wanting to change the front tyres, the reason is that we know that the Michelins are particularly susceptible. This is probably, again, confirmation of what we were talking about earlier on, David, that period of the Michelin settling in when they're new tyres, that 5 or 6 lap period when they don't really handle very well. And I think it's because you need to manipulate and get the carcass of the tyre to yield up a little bit. You can only do that by running. I think Toyota are trying to keep the used front tyres on the car to help reduce the understeer, and that is the front of the car washing away. It's like you turn the wheel to go left or right around the corner, but the car wants to carry on pushing in a straight line. That's understeer, and that's really what we want to try and keep those used tyres on for, because they will be in good condition to help with that. As the tyres wear down and the grooves start to disappear, you get better traction out of the tyres. Of course, you get to the stage where they become slick, and then, of course, the FIA might take action and say you're running illegal tyres. Remembering that those grooves in the tyres are an FIA regulation, they must be there, and that is to try and remove traction away from the tyres. It's a way of trying to slow the cars down. As we've seen, we've actually gained 3 seconds in 1 year because of the tyres.
Now Rubens Barrichello here rejoined in 6th place right behind David Coulthard, not going as quick as I sort of thought he would. Look at that. I thought he'd be able to overtake him pretty easy, but in fact he's obviously having his work cut out to gain anything on David Coulthard. Well, while he's gaining, we'll go away for just a couple of minutes and we'll be right back with more of this intense action from Canada in just a second. Welcome back to Canadian Grand Prix. There you see positions 2, 3 and 4. Kimi Räikkönen actually pulling up time on Montoya and towards bringing Ralf Schumacher along with him. So those three having a really good battle for 2nd through 4th. And here you see the leader, Michael Schumacher, going serenely on his way. But he must be, well, no. Depends. If he's on a one-stop strategy, he could be coming in another 10 laps yet. But he's got off to such a slow start. You know, you got to wonder whether he did have a lot of fuel on board at the beginning of that race. Look at the gap from him back to 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Montoya not pulling away from these guys like he thought he would after his stop. The gap back to Montoya, 15, nearly 16 seconds. Michael Schumacher back to Montoya. Both of them got to make another stop, but Montoya's will come much later because he took the opportunity to stop during that safety car period. There you see Michael Schumacher and Montoya's time. Schumacher disappearing at quite a high rate of knots now. But he's going to be getting into some traffic fairly soon. Montoya whoa! Doing a bit of straight line in the chicane there.
Yeah, it's a very awkward corner, as you see, locked up going into it, and he really didn't want to risk turning in. And Frentzen in the pits from P17, Frentzen and the Arrows.
Ooh, long stop too.
It is a long stop. We need the camera shifting round, please, Mr. Director in Canada.
Oh dear. Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Oh dear. Didn't stall it, but he didn't want to go, did it?
No.
Not having a good day, poor old Heinz-Harald. Was leading this race back in the Jordan. Had that huge brake failure. He was actually 3rd, but he was leading the Australian Grand Prix when he had a brake failure on the Williams. And he had in 1996, he was having a great run going then, and brake just exploded on him. So Heinz-Harald Frentzen's career has had a bit of an up and a down. A bit up and down, generally. And David Coulthard, I tell you, I can't believe that he's not. Oh, that's one.
Oh, and I don't know. Look at the suspension. The rear suspension's all askew.
God, I say it is, yeah. So is he going to try and struggle back to the pits like that? Because if he is, he's going to be a mobile chicane for about 5 minutes.
He's effectively out of the race.
He's out of the race, but I mean, he's going to be a bit of a nuisance to these guys.
Oh, absolutely.
I can't believe that Rubens Barrichello is not making more impression on David Coulthard. There's the yellow flags for the slow-moving car of Pedro de la Rosa. There's the air, absolutely full of those flying bits of tree, which are obviously clogging these guys' radiators up.
Absolutely, and Salo is being called into the pits there for speeding into the pit lane.
Ah, Not good for his day at all. He was
not
really
good.
having a good run.
Now, the cars are fitted with pit lane speed limiters. It's an automatic function on the steering wheel, but of course, if it ain't working, if for some reason you've got an electrical glitch on it, you press that button, because you want to leave that obviously right up until the line when you need to press it to try and, you know, maximize the speed going down the pit lane. And if it doesn't work, if it doesn't latch right, all of a sudden, click, speed camera's got you.
Kimi Raikkonen displaying incredible maturity here in holding off Ralf Schumacher, vastly more experienced than Kimi Raikkonen, and Kimi Raikkonen probably hasn't got quite the car that Ralf Schumacher's got either.
Here comes Salo for his penalty.
Ralf Schumacher having done 90 races, Kimi Raikkonen doing his 24th race this weekend. Big difference. Kimi Raikkonen, of course, still only 22 years old. Mind you, Ralf Schumacher's only 26.
And there it is again. That's a great shot of all the stuff, the leaves and whatever blowing off the trees. Look at it all blowing around.
It's like a little cotton ball thing. It's, at this time of year. It's a seed, but there's a lot of it there, isn't there? Oh, look at that smoke coming off that, the dust coming out of that front disc on that Raikkonen's car there. Just pouring out. So as we watch this intense race between Raikkonen and Ralf Schumacher for third spot here in the Canadian Grand Prix, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back with more of this action in just a minute, so stay with us. Welcome back to the Canadian Grand Prix. You haven't missed anything while we've been gone. Tremendous battle still going on between Kimi Raikkonen. Here we see David Coulthard, who's leading Rubens Barrichello still, to my astonishment. There you see the running order at the moment. David Coulthard still well ahead of Rubens Barrichello. Heidfeld right behind him, just out of the points. And Fisichella in 8th spot in the Jordan Honda. He qualified 8th as well, I believe. Yeah, 6th. So Fisichella having a pretty good day. Keeping his fingers crossed he's getting the points again. David Coulthard, winner 3 weeks ago in Monte Carlo.
Yeah, that was a great result for McLaren, wasn't it? But already, you know, going into this race, McLaren are already saying, well, I don't think that's really going to be the way it's going for the rest of the season. Really, we might not be having another good result until we get to Hungary.
Yeah. Yeah, David Coulthard got into trouble for saying that he thought he was out of the World Championship a couple of races back, and then just after the Monte Carlo Grand Prix, Ron Dennis said something about it, and David Coulthard got all over him and said, that's what I said 3 races ago, and you tore me off a strip. Why come you can say it and I can't?
Well, he's the boss. So
a little bit of niggling going on in the McLaren. I just can't believe Barrichello must have some sort of a problem. But of course, that is also a thing with these handmade race tires. They are different from one set to another. It could be that this second set of tires is just not quite up to it, because he should really be all over and past David Coulthard, I would have thought.
See that?
Raikkonen and Schumacher being dropped slowly but surely now by Montoya, who was right with him. Now he's 4 seconds ahead.
And that,
let's listen to this as we watch this intense battle for third between Raikkonen and Ralf Schumacher.
well, that's a great shot as well, isn't it? The perspective of what the camera gives you there to see the speed of the things.
McLaren is off that casino hairpin compared to the Williams BMW. I'd have thought the Williams BMW with the power and torque they've got would have eaten him up coming off the corner, but in fact Raikkonen's definitely quicker off the corner, I think, than Ralf.
Yeah.
Whoa, big lock up there.
Ralf might be running very, very heavy at this stage, but remember as well, David, it's all about it's the traction control, and if McLaren have got very, very good traction coming out of that corner,
right,
that can give them a huge advantage.
They've obviously got good traction control. We saw that 3 weeks ago at Monte Carlo. Jenson Button into the pits.
see whether or not they
10th spot.
checked the brakes. No, they're not. They're not measuring the front brakes, which I'm surprised about. Again, look at the guys desperately clearing all that debris out of the car. That took the longest part of the pit stop, so you can tell it's becoming a major factor, major worry for these teams now. I mean, normally you get a guy that would jump in during the pit stop and just do a token effort at getting anything in there, but this is clearly a problem for the teams.
Michael Schumacher slashing past Jenson Button, who's just come out of the pits. Michael Schumacher doing the fastest lap of the race to Michael Schumacher. Last year's fastest lap was a 1:19, and that was a 1:15. 24 seconds back to Montoya, and Montoya's going quicker than he was a few moments ago. So Michael Schumacher, wow, he's got off to a slow start, but certainly making up for it now. Nick Heidfeld in from 7th position. Well, you saw that stuff fall out then just on the brakes. Absolutely. You can see that stuff falling out of the air duct. Jeepers.
Well, they could be doing a bit more of that, actually.
Oop, can't get the fuel off.
Yeah, the South. Ferrari are ready. Michael Schumacher, we believe this is coming in the pit stops. Yes, it is, just behind one of the Minardis.
Boy, wouldn't that get you goated?
Oh.
Minardi just bolts you going into the pit lane.
I know. Now let's see what the Ferrari mechanics do as far as cleaning out the ducts. Well, they're straight into the car now. You just saw one of the guys move in there. We'll have another look at that. We'll see that on replay later. I'm interested to see what that Ferrari technician was doing around the right front. Montoya goes through, so Montoya takes the lead. There he is.
Michael Schumacher came out in second there, still got out in front of Raikkonen and Ralf Schumacher, and with a 24-second lead going in, it's going to be interesting to see how Montoya can maintain that lead, because going into that pit stop there, Michael Schumacher was going quicker than Montoya, but of course now he's full of fuel and new tyres. That may be slowing him up a little bit. Ralf Schumacher still frustrated to be stuck behind Kimi Raikkonen, no doubt. Stuff all over the track there, just everywhere, flying around in the air. There's Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Here comes David Coulthard, and there's Rubens Barrichello. Rubens Barrichello still losing time to David Coulthard. 4 seconds behind him now.
Let's have another look at that Ferrari pit stop we've just seen there, and have a look at the Ferrari technician. I wonder whether or not he's just checking the brake guy. Now watch the left front of the car. You see an engineer just have a look round, whether or not he's checking the condition of one of the temperature sensors on the brake disc, something they're going to be concerned about. But he was just having a look inside there, see what's going on. But again, look at the amount of debris that they're dragging out of the car.
Yeah, crikey, half of it going back in there as he pulls out. He just beats Alex Yoong out. Can you imagine if Yoong had got to the pit lane before? Oh. God, love it. There's that white line. Must not cross that before they rejoin. Here's that battle for third spot still. So as we watch Michael Schumacher try and run down Juan Pablo Montoya, we'll take another quick break here. We'll be back with more great action from Canada in just a minute. Stay right with us.
Speed Channel's coverage of Formula One is brought to you by BMW, the ultimate driving machine.
And right now, BMW in the Williams chassis is leading the race with 30 laps left. Montoya's got about a 3-second lead over Michael Schumacher, who's had his one and only stop. Montoya, we feel sure, has got one more stop. He did stop under that safety car situation earlier on, but I think it was too long a gap there. You see Raikkonen and Ralf Schumacher not that very far behind Michael. Michael's got one of the Minardis in front of him. That must be Mark Webber, I think. Kimi Raikkonen just driven the race of his life under intense pressure from Ralf Schumacher right from the drop of the flag, and with a generally suspected to be a slightly down on power car, but he has certainly done wonders this afternoon. Had a great race.
He has. I think that's a race of great maturity, really, from just a young driver. Panis, BAR, into the pit lane.
He was running in 9th. He's coming in now. We just saw Massa stop, who was running in 9th, now dropped to 13th after his stop. The Williams team are ready for a stop. Of course, that could be Ralph's one and only stop. One of the Jags just going out of the picture. Well, we know it's not Pedro de la Rosa, so it must be Eddie Irvine. Boy, that's 2nd, 3rd, and 4th right there. There's not much in it at this stage. But one of those 3 is going to come into the pits probably.
Ralf
Schumacher into the pits. There's David Coulthard now running in 4th. But he too will have to stop fairly shortly, and the Renault pit ready too for Jarno Trulli. Let's see what sort of a stop this is.
Well, again,
they're not going for any of that stuff in the radiators.
They're not changing the tyres. I don't know what's going off here. There seems to be refueling rig problem.
Oh, Ralf Schumacher shaking his head. I think so too.
And there's Irvine, and Irvine on fire as well. Look at the car.
There's Jarno Trulli going out of the pits. Well, I can't understand that they never even attempted to clear those radiator ducts out when we've seen the stuff that's come out of everybody else's. That was most peculiar.
Yeah. Well,
Eddie Irvine putting the steering wheel back on the car, which Sato did in qualifying. Even though the thing was blazing away, you got to put the steering wheel back so that the marshals can push the car away somewhere. Eddie Irvine.
I think a lot of that smoke there was theatricals by the marshals there. I think they put the fire out, but I mean, once that extinguisher powder gets underneath, it causes all sorts of smoke. But yeah, consternation in the Williams pits there. Not entirely sure what that was about. There was one of the mechanics was holding a tyre as if he wanted to change it, but nobody else seemed to want to jack the car up. The guy at the front of the pit stop with a pneumatic jack was ready to lift the car up, but that was called off.
Michael Schumacher here coming under pressure from Kimi Raikkonen. Now, Kimi Raikkonen's obviously got to stop pretty shortly, and Michael Schumacher being left. Montoya's pulling away now from Michael Schumacher. He was 3 seconds in front. Now he's nearly 7.
Yeah, Kimi Raikkonen must be about running on fumes by now.
Kimi Raikkonen is all over Michael Schumacher here. But I'm sure that Michael Schumacher's not panicking exactly, but he knows what he's doing.
Well, he might not be panicking, but this is a good drive.
It's a tremendous drive. And, of course, when you're racing with someone like Kimi Raikkonen, whose blood is up, the adrenaline is really flowing, and you don't want him running too close behind you, just in case he misjudges it or slips up. And the next thing is he's right in the back of your wing, you know.
Yeah, he's taking the pylons off the rear wing, and the race is over.
Yeah. Nick Heidfeld's just had a drive-through penalty for speeding in pit lane as well. I'll tell you what, that McLaren, for a car that's supposedly down on power, is awfully quick down this straight, because he could hold off Ralf Schumacher, and he's hanging right on there to Michael Schumacher. So as we watch this terrific battle here for seconds, but we'll take another break, and we'll be right back with more from Canada in just a minute. Stay right here with us. Back in Canada, Ralf Schumacher back into the pits. We saw that disastrous pit stop earlier on when they took the fuel in, put the fuel out, put it back in again. I wonder if no fuel, in fact, went in at all in that first stop.
I don't think it did. I don't think it did go in. And again, they're making no attempt to change tyres. The guy who controlling the pit stop at the front with a pneumatic jack was there, I think, really to position the car for the refueling man so that the nozzle would line up with the car valve. But no attempt to change the tyres. But yeah, I think you're right, David. No fuel could have gone into the car and that previous pit stop attempt. So.
And again, no attempt to clean out those air ducts, which I find extraordinary. When you've seen what's come out of everybody else's air ducts.
Yeah, sure. And Raikkonen in.
Kimi Raikkonen in. So that's taken a lot of pressure off Michael Schumacher. The big question mark now is, can Juan Pablo Montoya go to the end after that stop under the safety car earlier on? But it seemed to me awfully early.
7.8 seconds for McLaren. that ducked out, and they'll do that until the second the refueling valve is off. Fisichella back into the fray. 11.3 seconds.
Schumacher back on the track now. If Montoya is going to go to the end of this race, he's going to have to do 55 laps. Last year, Ralf Schumacher did 51 laps before he stopped for fuel. So I suppose it is possible. But I also suppose that Michael Schumacher doesn't think it is possible, which is probably why he's not flapping too much. But who knows, he may be flapping. Montoya's going significantly quicker than Michael Schumacher at the moment. The gap's gone from just under 3 seconds to where you see it now. So
we're hearing the Williams mechanics are still desperately looking around that refueling rig. Now they've got 2 rigs, one for each car, but they may have had to switch rigs there because of that complication. We didn't see that, the camera angle didn't show us, but the Williams are not having a good day. And not only that, Ferrari are also looking around their rig earlier on. So whether or not into technique, we're watching Sato now and the Jordan doing his pit stop there.
They're clearing air radiators.
They are.
So Michael Schumacher now being hounded by David Coulthard. Coulthard having a tremendous run up to 3rd spot now, still in front of Barrichello,
and still has to stop.
And of course David Coulthard's got to stop, but so is Barrichello. Now Sato got out there in front of Michael Schumacher as they just come into the first of these difficult complexes, so that won't be going down too well with Herr Schumacher, with David Coulthard being that close behind him. Sato gives him room there, that's good. You remember 3 weeks ago that Sato had that huge crash in the tunnel at Monaco? Well, it turned out that the team had told him to make room for Fisichella, who was his teammate, who was coming up behind him. And Sato, for some extraordinary reason, decided to give room for him in the tunnel. And, of course, got in the gravel, and that was it. Let's listen to Montoya.
Alan McNish, he's obviously hit the wall there, hasn't he? Big time.
Pretty hard, but it's just going to bring another safety car.
That's in a bad position.
Where exactly is that? Boy, that is in a bad position. I don't see any cranes there, so this could be another safety car issue.
Yeah. Toyota, McNish's Toyota, that's in the back part of the track, but it's in one of those, they don't really label all the corners, do they, go around this track? There's a lot of it that just doesn't have a name.
Montoya pulling out over half a second a lap on Michael Schumacher.
Well.
So is Montoya going to duck into the pits? Sounds on board that BMW engine, revving awesome. At 18,000 RPM in the back of that Williams car. We hear that the pits are getting ready for David Coulthard, who's currently running in 3rd spot. And as you can see, Montoya pulling out substantially over Michael Schumacher. Here comes David Coulthard.
Coulthard from
P3. His one and only stop.
Now let's hope that McLaren don't share the same problems that Williams and Ferrari have had to some extent. That was Simone, his girlfriend.
If she played the cards right, she could be my girlfriend. Are they cleaning out his air ducts?
Well,
Good stop.
Yeah, it was
one of the better stops this afternoon. But of course, some of those stops have been compromised by cleaning out all that junk. But they didn't do that on his car either.
Yeah, I mean, it was a quick stop, but it's a quick stop because primarily, of course, it's later in the race and had to take less fuel on to get to the end of the race. But regardless of that fact, it was. So Coulthard comes back onto the circuit ahead of Raikkonen.
We'll be back with more of the Canadian Grand Prix in just a minute. Juan Pablo Montoya in the lead of the Canadian Grand Prix, pulls in for his second stop. But of course, as the race runs down now, we've only got about 18 laps to go. This should be a pretty short stop. Is he going to change tyres? Yes.
Need about 6 seconds of fuel delivery. 6 seconds of fuel delivery will get him to the end of the race. Yeah, that was about 6.5. The clock showed 8.2, but the clock was still running after the valve was disconnected.
He was about 11 seconds ahead of Schumacher coming in. Michael Schumacher has gone through and Barrichello has gone through.
So both Ferraris have gone through.
So Montoya rejoins in third. Now is he going to be able to run down the two Ferraris? And is Barrichello going to have to make another stop? We think he's probably about 9 to 11 laps shy of being able to run this race to the end. Look at that stuff flying around in the air. I can't believe those guys didn't try and clean those radiators out, but still.
No, they should have done.
Michael Schumacher only just in front of his teammate. The two Saubers right behind them.
Michelins and the Williams again, they've only changed the rear tyres, so Michelin's they're choosing to keep those front tyres on, I think, to help with that understeer. David, what do you think?
It must be the answer. There's no other way out of it.
No.
We just saw a replay there of David Coulthard just slipping in front of his teammate Raikkonen on his pit exit. It was, boy, he just got in front of him. So he must have had a much better stop than Raikkonen, because Raikkonen was a long way ahead of him at one stage.
Yeah.
This race coming up in 2 weeks. It's the European Grand Prix from the Nürburgring in Germany. I'm sorry, coming up in 1 week time, it's the European Grand Prix from the Nürburgring in Germany. Speed Channel will have live coverage of practice at 7 a.m. Eastern on Friday, June the 21st, but there's a different time for qualifying. It'll be at 6 a.m. Eastern on Saturday the 22nd. And the race can be seen live on Speed Channel at 7:30 a.m. on Sunday, June the 23rd. The reason for the change of time in qualifying is that the World Cup final will be taking place on the 22nd, and therefore Formula One will have qualifying finished before the football game starts, which hopefully will be Britain and the USA. Boy, oh boy, this is a tight battle here between Rubens Barrichello, look at that now, in second spot right behind his team leader, Michael Schumacher.
Yeah, now we're anticipating a little bit of team orders going off here, do you think?
Schumacher going after his 5th win here. Had an incredible record here. He was second the very first time he came. He was second the next time. Then he won it. Then he came 5th. Then he retired. Then he won a couple. Then he retired again. Then he came 1st and 2nd last year to his brother Ralph. Team is ready for a pit stop, which must be Barrichello's second stop. But it will be a quick one. Montoya now in 3rd spot, just 7 seconds behind, that's all. Rubens Barrichello comes in, so he is going to lose 2nd spot. Montoya will be back in the 2nd spot. And is he going quicker now than Michael Schumacher, or has Michael Schumacher got this race in control?
Look for about 5 seconds of fuel delivery time from Ferrari.
Steve.
Again, did you notice the, I'm not sure whether that was Ross Brawn, but I just got one of the Ferrari technicians out of my eye. I was watching the fuel hose, but one of the Ferrari technicians was just having a look at the condition of Barrichello's brakes there before the tyre went back on.
Is that Raikkonen just in front of him there? Or David Coulthard? David Coulthard running in third spot. David Barrichello now in fourth, just behind David Coulthard. Can he get in this time? Raikkonen's dropped back to fifth. Olivier Panis still soldiering on in the BAR Honda. So all the main runners have had their pit stops this afternoon. We've just got about 60 laps left to run here in Canada. We're going to go away for a quick break now, and we'll be right back, so stay right here. Welcome back as we watch Michael Schumacher leading the race from Juan Pablo Montoya. Third is David Coulthard. Fourth is Rubens Barrichello. Fifth is his teammate. Fifth is Kimi Raikkonen. There you see the gap back to Montoya. Let's call it 7.5 seconds. Here's Montoya coming down. 200 miles an hour. Hard on the brakes for this chicane. Right, left chicane. We've seen Ralf Schumacher, his teammate. Now he's... Whoa! Big. I was going to say he's taking it steady through there. Absolutely. It looks like Montoya's day is done.
Game over. Well, game over unless they can fix it from the pit wall, but I don't think they're fixing that one.
What an incredible disappointment. What a run. Pole position is 6th of his career. The car just going beautifully all the time.
Oh, boy.
And expired with engine trouble. We heard him say at the beginning of the show, I don't understand how David Coulthard can smoke for half the race and nothing goes wrong, and mine smokes and is done. And it's done it again. That's 2 weeks in a row for poor old Montoya.
Well, and the body language from the Williams pit said it all there, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Smoke coming out the right bank there. Pistons obviously hold by the look of things.
Yeah.
A great run from Juan Pablo Montoya. Obviously, somebody who's going to be a major player in Formula One racing, if he's not already. Just really, really tremendous driving. We saw that great pass down the pit straight with the three of them side by side.
Yeah.
But not to be today. Very disappointing for Montoya.
Isn't it just so near and yet so far?
Yeah, Montoya currently lying third in the World Championship, or equal second actually with his teammate Ralf Schumacher. And that's 2 races he's dropped out of so far in the last couple of races. So Montoya, you know, with a bit of luck, Montoya would be way ahead of Ralf Schumacher and wouldn't be that far behind Michael Schumacher. There's Rubens Barrichello, who's now, of course, moved up a spot to third, and David Coulthard, who qualified down in 8th spot, is now running in a strong 2nd spot. That day has turned out very differently to what the McLaren team thought. Coulthard is now in 2nd, and his teammate Raikkonen in 4th. So it looks like a big day for McLaren coming up. Rubens Barrichello giving David Coulthard a hard time. He wants that 2nd spot.
Yeah, well, Montoya, nothing you can do about that. I mean, he's done his bit, hasn't he?
He certainly did. Made no mistakes today. Drove extremely well, extremely aggressively. Took opportunities when they were presented to him. Made that very lightning pit stop early on, which probably would have helped him with the safety car out there. But meanwhile, a very intense battle on the track here. David Coulthard 2nd, albeit 20 seconds behind the leader, but Rubens Barrichello right behind him. Desperately wants that 2nd spot for Ferrari, and he needs the points too. Rubens Barrichello having a very unsatisfactory year for him, dropping out of 4 of the races so far and finishing 7th in Monte Carlo after a couple of penalties in the pit lane.
Yeah, but as you rightly say, David, both of these guys are keeping the pressure on, one in front, one behind, and Ferrari desperate to get in front, and they're both chucking out a lot of stuff from the front of those cars. And I'm a little bit concerned by Ferrari by the way that the technicians were so keen to look around the front of the car when they were just changing tyres there. I mean, we have to say, if they're going to start to suffer with brake problems, this is the period of the race where it's going to show itself.
Rubens Barrichello quite clearly the quicker of the two at the moment. All over David Coulthard. David Coulthard, though, is going to be extremely difficult to pass on this racetrack.
Yeah, the big
Ralf Schumacher down in 7th spot at the moment, still out of the points just after those disastrous pit stop.
And again, you see, it's no way a reflection really on the driver, is it? You know, these have been team failures, team drop-off, really, and it must be so frustrating for a driver when you've done so much, all you can do, and then it all goes wrong in the pits.
But I would have thought that Ralf Schumacher, quite honestly, could have got around Kimi Räikkönen earlier on, which would have given him a slightly better track position, but still not as easy from in there as it is to say that from in here. There you see him back in 7th. Jarno Trulli having another good run for the Renault, doing better than I think he thought he probably would do, qualifying in 10th, his teammate qualifying in 13th. McNish out of the wall. Mika Salo out too. So they were looking much better than their qualifying had shown. Now don't forget, of course, at the end of the race today here on Speed, Peter Windsor will be having some great reports as well as the interviews with the drivers that we'll see at the unilateral press conference. Peter Windsor will have had a chance to talk to these guys, so we'll get a lot of good stuff from Peter Windsor. There comes Rubens Barrichello right on the table. They've got lap traffic in front. There's Fisichella in front. Is he going to be able to do it? Yes.
He's out.
Whoa!
Can he make it?
Fantastic! Yes, hanging
No!
Oh,
they both of them. So what are they going to do about that? I guess they just scrubbed that potential penalty. No game made by any driver there.
Boy, I thought Barrichello had it. He had him.
He did have him.
Yeah.
Well.
I think David Coulthard must have lifted just a little bit when he saw that traffic in front, which Barrichello kept his foot buried because Barrichello's out on the dirty side of the track, and he has him here, look, and then suddenly, I don't know, he just bottled out, I suppose. Very exciting. Now he's got to do it all over again, and time is running out. He's only got about 8 laps left to do all that again. So with just a few laps left of the Canadian Grand Prix, as David Coulthard and Barrichello fight mightily for 2nd spot, we'll take a break, and we'll be right back with the conclusion of the race in just a minute. Stay right here. Welcome back. Michael Schumacher still leads from David Coulthard and Rubens Barrichello. Now let's take a second to check the Bridgestone race reset. There you see the leader, Michael Schumacher. Lead changes have been 3. Laps led 27. Gap to second up to 17.6 seconds now. It's been a pretty exciting race. Montoya getting off to a great start. Terrific battles through the field with Räikkönen and Schumacher battling mightily there for 3rd and 4th spot for a long time. Olivier Panis hanging in there. Hometown hero, his teammate Jacques Villeneuve out very early on with a malfunctioning car of some sort. Now Olivier Panis holding off Felipe Massa. Felipe Massa, the youngest driver in the field. Olivier Panis, one of the older. Right behind Massa, you just saw the Renault of Jenson Button lying in 10th spot. Jarno Trulli's up to 6th in the other Renault, so looks like he might get a point out of this. Great sounds of Formula One. V10 engines screaming at 18,500 RPM.
Yeah, 18.5. Montoya, I mean, it has blown up now. This might be a result of it. Montoya was pulling 18.2 earlier on down that straight.
Comes David Coulthard and Rubens Barrichello to lap this group. That's not going to be easy because they're all... Oh, well, Jarno Trulli's being very gentlemanly there, considering he's... Jenson Button, sorry, right up there. So Jenson Button let David Coulthard by. Is he going to be as friendly with Rubens Barrichello?
I think he will.
Yep.
There he goes.
Not in a great spot either, I mean, for him.
No.
Coulthard and Barrichello pulling Michael Schumacher in. They were about 17 seconds behind. Now they're down to 11. So they're really making ground on Michael Schumacher. But of course, there's only 6 laps left. So I've no doubt that Michael Schumacher knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, and there's all that stuff blowing around the circuit. There's something hanging on one of the barge boards, or the left barge board of Barrichello's car. I think it's probably a tear-off or something. One of the visor tear-offs that's just flapping around on the left barge board. I don't think it's loose. There, you just see that little bit of tape or something stuck there, but
yeah,
it's either a little bit of helicopter tape, the stuff that they use to secure the body panels down during the race. I more suspect it's one of the tear-off visors from the helmet, but no concern.
Rubens Barrichello, having made that dynamic attempt to pass David Coulthard, seems to have lost I don't know about the spirit, but he certainly dropped back a little bit now. They were right involved with Fisichella there, where they were passing Fisichella, who in fact is running in 5th spot. He's having a good run too. Rubens Barrichello, the chance was there. He failed to take it, and David Coulthard now seems to be having trouble to get to grips with David Coulthard again. Tremendous battles going on at the moment for the 6th and final point. The final point for 6th spot between Jarno Trulli and Ralf Schumacher. Ralf Schumacher, whose day came undone in the pits, where the car obviously took no fuel the first time they stopped.
I think another equation we've got to think about as well, David, is the amount of debris that's floating around the circuit from the trees and whatever. It's going to be giving overheating problems, and probably from the pit wall, the engineers are asking the drivers just to drop back, because it must be getting to that stage now if you want to finish the race. And once you get so close up behind the car in front, of course, that affects the cooling even more, and those temperatures on the engine and the gearbox start to lift up. Here
you see that battle, Jarno Trulli and Ralf Schumacher racing for 6th spot, but of course it is a point, absolutely vital, and both these guys would like that point. Jarno Trulli at the moment has only got 3 points. Ralf Schumacher is lying joint second with Montoya at the moment with 27 points, so he could do with a point to break that tie between himself and his teammate. There you see them coming now again. Ralf Schumacher's car seems to be just a little bit off the pace up that straight this afternoon. You'd have thought he'd be much quicker, harder on the brakes there, but coming off the corner, the Renault pulls out just a little bit. Doesn't seem to be making up much ground on these longish straights though,
no,
which is a bit of a surprise. The Renault with the very wide angle engine, wide angle in the V to the engine to try and get the centre of gravity down. Hasn't worked out quite as well as they thought it would. Here you see that terrific battle between Barrichello there and David Coulthard. Coming up to lap, Olivier Panis. Panis lying in 8th spot. Now is he going to let him through easily? Oh, David Coulthard locks up a little bit there. Oh, Barrichello right on him. Panis gives way. Battle for 6. Jarno Trulli still leads Ralf Schumacher, and the laps really are running down now with just 4 to go. Tremendous battle for 2nd spot. More points at stake here, of course. 6 for 2nd, 4 for 3rd. Rubens Barrichello needs all the points he can get at the moment.
Oh,
5th.
Jenson Button.
Oh my gosh, Jenson Button has the worst luck at finishing these races with just like a couple of laps to go. That's about the 2nd or 3rd time this year.
This is
Spain on the last lap.
It was. Is it the fact that they're building the car so light? Is this the Chapman philosophy? If you build the car as light as possible, but in the closing stage of the race, of course, these things start to fail.
Who knows? But it just seems to happen to him because it happened to Jarno Trulli in Spain too. It happened to both of them. They both fell out of points positions with just less than 2 laps to go. Michael Schumacher's got a pretty healthy lead, or certainly healthy enough over David Coulthard. I don't think many people, including us, thought that David Coulthard was in this race with a real solid chance of coming second. Ralf Schumacher apparently went off the road there trying to get around Jarno Trulli, so that's dropped him back a little bit. So that'll certainly do it for 6th place for him, Jarno Trulli. Well, unless he has a problem. Rubens Barrichello having a look down the inside. Yeah, no, yes, no, yes, no, no.
Yeah, Rubens will be desperate for this 2nd place. He'll want to get up there, so it'll be a Ferrari 1-2. And of course, Coulthard will be desperate for that not to happen. But you're right, David. I never thought we'd see McLaren in this position in the closing laps of the race.
David Coulthard's already got 20 points, 10 of which, of course, came 3 weeks ago in Monte Carlo. Rubens Barrichello still only got 12. With 2 2nd places.
And I tell you what, I don't think McLaren thought they'd be in this position of the closing lap of the race.
I don't think they did. Not here.
Not here.
So if they're doing this well here, obviously things are looking good for them for some of the upcoming races. European, France, Britain. If they can do that well here, they've obviously got the car and the engine.
They're getting on the case.
They're coming way back into contention here.
Rubino's only got a couple of corners left, really, a couple of laps, and he's going to have to set it up now if he wants to pull it off.
Boy, he went very wide there in the hairpin.
Yeah.
They just sound so good. There you see the front 3, Michael Schumacher, David Coulthard. Going into the year, we thought that David Coulthard and Michael Schumacher might have a bit of a titanic struggle for the World Championship. It hasn't worked out that way at all because the McLaren has been way off the pace. Obviously at Monte Carlo it certainly was not winning the race, and here it's been quicker than anybody thought, especially after qualifying where it was over a second slower in qualifying. And Michael Schumacher shot into that huge lead early on. Probably pretty glad now that he did.
I bet he is.
Coulthard 1.5 seconds off the pace in qualifying. Kimi Raikkonen a second off. Just a few. Barrichello's gone. Barrichello.
There he is.
Oh, there he is.
He's dropped right off. This could be preservation. Now he's obviously got a problem on the car, or probably from the pit wall to tell him that those engine temperatures are just dangerously high now, and if he wants to creep back and get 3rd place, to drop off, leave Coulthard alone.
Just 1 set of corners to go, the right and the left of the last chicane there. You see Michael Schumacher come through, dash over no doubt to the side of the pits there, but maybe not because he wants to get to that start-finish line first. 2nd, David Coulthard. 3rd, Rubens Barrichello. Just over a second gap.
1 point, there's the Ferrari guys on the pit walls applauding Michael Schumacher. Another win for Scuderia Ferrari.
So that makes his 5th win in Canada for Michael Schumacher out of 11 tries, and of course that's his 6th win this year so far.
And Michael
Should
Schumacher,
he be heading for a record? He and Nigel Mansell hold the record with 9 wins each. And he's got 6 already, and we're just about at the halfway point. He could easily win another 3 or 4 races as it goes on. So Michael Schumacher just proving to be the absolute master of the 2002 season. Rubens Barrichello finishes 3rd. Kimi Raikkonen in 4th spot. Giancarlo Fisichella in 5th for the Jordan Honda team. So both Jordan and Honda were breathing sighs of relief. Trulli finishes up in 6th. Ralf Schumacher has blown up. Blown up. So both BMW engines blew up, but Ralf Schumacher's was better time because has he just taken the flag or not? I think he took the line in 7th.
Yes, he did. 7th place.
Olivier Panis is 8th Felipe Massa 9th, Sato 10th, so no doubt Jordan will be very relieved that Takuma Sato has finished the race. Webber in the 11th spot in the Minardi.
There's Ralph walking back.
Boy, oh boy. Not a great day for the BMW Williams team in the end. No points. And at one stage, we were all discussing with everybody in Canada that we looked like it could be a Williams 1-2.
It looked very much that way at the start, and Williams were very confident. And
because Ralf Schumacher had a problem in qualifying, and in fact ended up in qualifying in fourth spot. And everybody said if he hadn't had to change to his spare car for qualifying, he probably would have been on the front row with his teammate Juan Pablo Montoya. So they really looked strong going in. Bridgestone yet again coming out on top with Michael Schumacher. Michelin second, a nice spread amongst the tyre manufacturers in the first 5 cars there.
And a great result for McLaren. I absolutely
incredible
gobsmacked.
result from McLaren. Absolutely terrific. Absolutely terrific. So that jumps old David Coulthard up the nicely up there. So he is now just 1 point behind Montoya and Schumacher in second for joint second. Of course, Michael Schumacher jumps to 70 points, so he has now got a huge lead over second place, which is going to be his brother Ralph, Juan Pablo Montoya with 27 points each, and of course David Coulthard with 26. Poor old Rubens Barrichello, on the other hand. Oh, we don't want to see them. We want to see Rubens Barrichello and David Coulthard. Thank you very much.
David Coulthard, magnifique course.
There he is.
La deuxième place.
Talking to Rubens Barrichello.
Coulthard and Rubens Barrichello.
No doubt about that little incident down going into the chicane. It was a bit hairy there. 3 side by side, all doing a couple of 100 miles an hour when they put the brakes on.
There's your race winner, Michael Schumacher, Ferrari.
Boy, oh boy, that puts Michael Schumacher's race winning total now to what's he won? 59 races. Good Lord, just about to get to 60 race wins. Isn't that incredible?
That is an incredible stat in itself, David.
60 race wins out of 168 starts. Well, 59 race wins. He hasn't got to 60 yet, but he's closing right in on it.
And that car looks so clean, doesn't it?
Wasn't it?
Boy, oh boy.
Putting the wheel back on even in the Parc Fermé. Michael Schumacher hugging one of his crew members there. Rubens Barrichello giving the thumbs up, had a nice third spot. So as Michael Schumacher and the others go for the weigh-in and get ready for the press conference, we'll take a quick break here and we'll be back with more of the post-race festivities from Canada. On to the podium for the 6th time this year at the top step, Michael Schumacher. The admiring crowds of fans below. They're not his fans, of course. They are David Coulthard's fans, who's also on the podium. Again, having won in Monte Carlo 2 weeks ago, Rubens Barrichello. Well, Michael Schumacher, certainly when you see some of those pictures of him when he won his first races here, he is certainly starting to look a bit older. Even though he's 33 years old, the adoring Ferrari mechanics looking at him, they certainly do adore Michael Schumacher. He's done an incredible job for Ferrari. 6 wins this year to start with, and of course the 2 World Championships and the first World Championship since Jody Scheckter in 1979. It took him 20 years to get to the win again.
And that's Luca Baldessari accepting the Constructors' Trophy Award for Ferrari. Michael Schumacher's race engineer. They have a great policy of sending different personnel up onto the podium, don't they, Ferrari? And it really
keep on getting a chance to give them up there.
They do.
They get more chances.
That's true.
David Coulthard, that's his girlfriend Simone. David Coulthard, of course, winner 3 weeks ago in Monte Carlo. So a first and a second in the last 2 races. Old David Coulthard on a bit of a roll here.
Absolutely it is.
Huge crowd on hand to see this race. As you can see, the Canadian flags in the background. This was the Air Canada race for the Canadian Grand Prix. Rubens Barrichello, no doubt pretty happy with 3rd spot, but he really would have rather that 2nd, and at one stage it certainly looked like he got it with that dynamite pass attempt down the inside of David Coulthard.
Those balls there being sprayed with champagne.
It's turned out to be a beautiful day in Canada. Blue skies, little white fluffy clouds, and a huge crowd on hand to see this. But of course, their local hero out very early on in the BAR Honda. Oh, Luca having a quick quaff of the old bubbly there.
A good race result for all and a great result for McLaren. I mean, I think that's quite startling.
Well, it's tremendous. Kimi Raikkonen ending up there in 4th spot too. So very good result from McLaren. Kimi Raikkonen had a good run all day. It's hard to know how he got back to 4th at one stage. It looked like if anybody's going to be 3rd, it would be him. There you see the 3 heroes on the podium. Michael Schumacher, David Coulthard, Rubens Barrichello. They'll be going off their press conference, and we'll be right back to hear what they have to say about the race. So stay with us.
Congratulations, gentlemen, an action-packed Canadian Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher, victory. David Coulthard, 2nd for McLaren, and Rubens Barrichello, 3rd for Ferrari. Michael, a very exciting race. You appeared to start with a heavy fuel load according to your pace in the early laps, but then from the outside we started to wonder if indeed you were on a 2-stopper because you were lapping so fast. You never backed off in that race.
No, we couldn't, because the strategy was obviously, after we knew Montoya was on 2-stop, very tight. So I had to push until he made his 2nd pit stop to know that he is really behind, and only then I sort of consolidated my pace to sort of to keep the gap consistent.
Now, it was a very strong race. Obviously, once Montoya had finally retired from the race, you were home free with the big lead and you could back off. But how good were your tyres today? But you've also talked this weekend about having a very strong engine for here at Montreal.
Yeah, I mean, we had a very strong package all in all. On the other side, it was obvious that we had some blister on our rear left tyre in particular, which for sure cost us a bit of performance. But then, obviously, it was still good enough to win the race, and in normal circumstance, probably be 1st and 2nd. But that's the way it goes, and we're pretty happy with the result so far, and obviously with the package we have had here.
Michael, congratulations, thank you. David, starting 8th, I don't presume you would have imagined being sitting here in 2nd place. But you started with a heavy fuel load, so it seemed, but still you managed to get past 2 cars leading into turn 2 on the first lap. Talk us through those first sort of 400 metres.
Well, obviously we've seen recently that our launch system's been working very well, so it was one of the discussions before the race as to whether starting with a lighter fuel load would help me pass people into the first corner, but the engineers were confident that would have not much of an effect. So once again, like Monaco, the prediction was correct, and I gained those 2 places quite easily.
Now, your pit crew seemed to do a very good job just to get you back out ahead of Kimi Raikkonen, but then you spent the final 15 or so laps fighting with Rubens Barrichello. Talk us through the moment where you both came up behind, I believe it was Takuma Sato, to lap him and then headed down to that final chicane.
Yeah, well, obviously I thought Sato was going to let me through at the hairpin, but he didn't, so I was very slow coming out of there. And then obviously in the run down to the last chicane, I know it was very marginal with Rubens, and you know, he's expressed that opinion, and I've apologised for squeezing him, but I had to pull out of the slipstream from Sato, and I was always going to be marginal for the last chicane, and I took a gamble, didn't manage to make it, went through, and was fully prepared to let Rubens pass had he made the chicane, but as he hadn't, then neither of us gained advantage, and that was it. It stayed that way until the checker flag.
David, thank you. Rubens, what's your view of the same incident with Sato and David?
Right, there's no point in arguing right now. I think it's you know, right at that point I was able to brake and make the corner, but when you see somebody going fast on the outside, you just don't want to let it happen. So you just naturally come off the brake. So basically, I couldn't make the corner either. But I mean, that's no point in going back there. If you put a wall there, I'm sure we both would have made a corner.
Rubens, also on top of that, it seemed that in one of your pit stops you had an extra bit of time in the pits having gravel cleared from your side pods. Do you think that's the difference between you sitting in third place or having finished second?
What my view on the thing is not much on the pit stop. Maybe on the pit stop I lost a little bit of time, but I don't know why they brought the safety car in, because they could really roll the car backwards. The BAR there, and that was it. I mean, I really don't understand why they completely done my race dead. I mean, I was on a 2-stop, so I had only 6-7 laps after the safety car came out. So it was, and I see no reason why the safety car was brought in.
Rubens, thank you. Michael, today was Ferrari's 150th win, your 6th win of the year. Next race, one of 2 on your home ground this season at the Nürburgring. What are your hopes?
Our expectations are obviously very high with the package we have. I would like to express a big compliment to our testing team, because all year they sort of stay in the shadow and they work very hard, and we never had the opportunity to really thank them in the proper way. And I'm really happy we have such guys behind us. Rubens obviously was, while I was having some vacation, using the opportunity with them, and they simply do a fantastic job with both our testing driver, Badoer and Borti, and all the test engineers. So a big compliment to them, and we obviously look forward to having a good test next week and come well prepared to Nürburgring.
Thank you, Michael.
You'll be hearing from Peter Windsor next, so stay around for that as we take a quick break now, looking the huge crowd dispersed here in Canada. Welcome back. Now it's time for the Acura key move of the race, or certainly the most exciting move of the race. Juan Pablo Montoya on the outside moves to the inside there. Ralf Schumacher, the meat in the sandwich, as the 3 of them go down into turn 1. Montoya jumps from fifth to third. Raikkonen right there in the middle. Look at it. Ooh, Ralf Schumacher, straight line of chicane, lifted off momentarily. Wonder if he'd done it wrong. Montoya pounced and leapt past both of them as they all braked in for turn 1. And Ralf Schumacher just missed the rear end there of Kimi Raikkonen's McLaren. So that was all pretty fraught. And now one of the benefits of being delayed a week is that we get to hear from Peter Windsor after the race.
Yes, in the end, a straightforward win for Michael Schumacher, but it wasn't as easy as it looked. I asked him how hard this race was, bearing in mind he started with a full load of fuel, whilst around him, Rubens Barrichello and Juan Pablo Montoya had lighter fuel loads. Now, you were saying earlier that you weren't sure what his fuel load was at that time. So was your philosophy just go as hard as you possibly can in case he is on a 1-stop?
Yeah, I had to. I mean, until you find out what is the strategy, you sort of have to drive within your limits, and I was doing that.
But it was strange, bearing in mind Juan Pablo was on light fuel, as we now know, how quickly Rubens got away from him.
Yeah, he made a couple of mistakes in the beginning, probably for the same reason in the last chicane. Then he locked his tires a couple of times and he sort of was a bit inconsistent. But once he got into consistent running, he was almost the same pace, I think, from what I saw.
David Coulthard was never happy with the handling of his McLaren Mercedes during practice and qualifying, and indeed in the early laps of the race, he said the car felt bad too.
Yeah, I'm happy because the car came to me, and the first stint I was really struggling with oversteer, and I thought, oh god, it was really horrible to drive, I have to say, bouncing around and lacking rear stability, and I had to keep going forward on the brake balance and locking the diff for the entries, everything I could do to try and give it stability. And then as the fuel burned off, it started to get better. And I think what happened is actually because I was slow initially, I saved the brakes because you can't carry as much braking force into the corner. So it meant that for the last 10 laps from my pit stop, I could push, and I had a lot of brake there. And if you look at people's performance after the pit stops, a lot of people were maybe losing a little bit of their brakes, and it was only happening to me probably in the last 10 laps.
In many ways, the most surprising aspect of the race was when Ferrari failed to bring Rubens Barrichello in during the safety car period. He was on a two-stop strategy, and Williams lost no time bringing in Montoya. Why didn't they bring you in during the safety car?
It's a difficult question because I don't know. You know, when there was a bit of a silence on the radio at that time, and we have to go in and see if we learn from that.
A disappointing day for Williams BMW. And for Juan Pablo Montoya, a strange afternoon. He was on two-stop fuel strategy, and yet in the early stages of the race, Rubens Barrichello walked away from him.
As we take one last look at the Ile Notre Dame, the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, the St. Lawrence Freeway and the City of Montreal, we'll be right back to wrap things up from the Canadian Grand Prix.
Speed Channel's coverage of Formula One is brought to you by the all-new Toyota Matrix. Get the feeling.
Here's the race recap, beginning with the final results. The winner for the sixth time this year, Michael Schumacher. David Coulthard second after that great win in Monaco 3 weeks ago. Rubens Barrichello, Kimi Räikkönen, Giancarlo Fisichella and Jarno Trulli rounding out the top six, all scoring points.
And seventh position, Ralf Schumacher, and all the rest were at least a lap down. Olivier Panis in the BAR, Massa and Sato. Mark, what a great result there for Minardi.
Hi, so our friends are not having a good day. Alex Hume, Jenson Button, Montoya, McNish, Irvine, all out of the race. And all of these guys out as well. Sala looking very good at one stage. The driver's points. Michael Schumacher, look at that, 70 points. Ralf Schumacher won Montoya with 27, and David Coulthard has snuck up to fourth now with 26. Rubens Barrichello only got 16 still. Jenson Button still on 8. Räikkönen, Fisichella, Heidfeld, Trulli, Irvine and Massa there. All with single digits, and Salo, Webber and Frentzen. Stuck on.
And the constructors' points as far as the industry is concerned, and the team results, Ferrari making their stamp now, really 86 points at the end of this race. Williams 54 in second, and McLaren top of the big three, and further down the field there. Arrows look right down the bottom with 2 points. Not bad for Toyota with 2.
And that just about does it for the Canadian Grand Prix. We'll be back again next week for the European Grand Prix at the Nürburgring in Germany. Live practice coverage begins at 7 a.m. Eastern Friday, June the 21st. Live qualifying airs at a different time than usual. It will be shown at 6 a.m. because of the World Cup final on Saturday the 22nd. And we
15 miles long, built in 1925 by the